first session of the Good Vibes stream, as I welcome Dr. K. Ping Ping to the stage. It is fair to say that Dr. K. Ping Ping is leading the happiness movement in China with the extraordinary work he is carrying out. He is a firm believer in the value of positive education, and his groundbreaking research is changing the way China teaches its children. He is chair of the psychology department at Tsinghua University and a member of the International Positive Education Network. Please welcome Dr. K. Ping Ping, whose session is on how positive psychology changed China's classrooms. Welcome, Dr.
Thank you so much for your wonderful invitation and also introduction. My name is Kai Ping Peng. I'm also the board of director of the International Positive Psychology Association and also the founding member of this executive board of International Positive Education Network. On behalf of the association and network, I just want to say first, congratulations to all of you for such wonderful events and a wonderful gathering. And also the president of Chinese Psychological Association, also Chinese Positive Education Association. So on behalf of those two associations, I just want to say once again, congratulations. On behalf of the Chinese associations, I would like to share our experience of promoting positive psychology in a country that is not the United States, in a country that is different from the United States, and also people don't speak the English. So this is the purpose of my visit and also my presentations. I would like to talk about how we try to incorporate a Western idea called positive psychology into Chinese cultural context and the practice. So I would like to share with you on 4 questions. The question number 1, why? Because we're going to promote this movement. We're going to promote the positive psychology to educate us. So we have to convince ourselves first, why do we do that? And I tell the Chinese they're very practical, 3 reasons. For your business, for your health, and for your happiness. So this is the why questions. Number 2 is how. How could we overcome the cultural barriers, the language barriers to introduce this new idea to people that basically don't have any knowledge and information about psychology just 10 years ago. 2 years ago, 5 years ago, I returned to China with a mission to help Chinese to understand the subject of psychology. Then I realized that you have to find some handles, what the Chinese call handles. It's actually the platform or the vehicle, the medium to help the people to understand this very interesting questions and interesting topics. So I would like to talk a little bit about that, how we did it. And then what we do and what I have done and what we have accomplished. So those are the 4 questions. Of course, what else? Because of time constraint, I will go very fast. But we have time to share our experience, our thoughts, and probably answer your questions later on during the panel discussions. The why questions. Number 1, this is the reasons we have a global economy. In other ways, that in order to succeed in this changing world, we have to have positive mentality, positive mindset. I did a big data research. We downloaded the engram that Google has accumulated for the past 5 years. So they have scanned 9 major languages around the world and look at what they have talked about for the past 200 some years. So we find that there is transforming force going on right now. It's called the globalization free economy. So because this transforming forces, European countries benefits first for this global economy, free markets. Then is Great Britain and Western Europe, then Great Britain, the United States, and then Japan and China, many other countries. It's the same history going on. In China, there wasn't much change to improve people's well-being for the past 30 some years after establishment of People's Republic of China. But only after 1978, when Deng Xiaoping opened the door for China to embrace the free market around the world, Chinese GDP jumped tremendously. So now it is the second biggest entity, economical entity in the world. The secret is actually doing global business. So how do we do global business? Montesquieu actually already taught us many years ago. He said, wherever you find the agreeable manners, the commerce flourish. And wherever there is a commerce, there we meet with agreeable manners. Basically, in order to succeed in this changing new economy, you have to be agreeable. You have to be likable. In the meantime, you have to like other peoples. And of course, great American thinker Thomas Paine mentioned this. Commerce is a pacified system operating to colonize mankind by within nations as well as individuals, useful to each other. So you can see positivity, positive mindset, positive psychology are actually the secrets to make monies, to do business with other peoples. So my friend David Schumers of Arizona University actually said, at its best, a free market society is a game that you can only win by making other people better off. Maybe you think this is idealization. Maybe capitalism has its faults and also evils. But I have to see at individual levels, you have to make other people better off in order to make yourself better off. That's positivity. That's positive psychology. And of course, there's another dynamical forces changing the human society, human behavior, which is the new technology. This picture shows President Obama and his family members during the most important day in the family's life. That's basically his inauguration ceremony as second time as the President of the United States. So you can see what they're doing. Checking Facebook, email, I don't know whatever they're checking, but at least they're looking at the iPhones. So there are gadgets around the world right now going to change our behaviors. So how to make people adapt to this dramatic changes in technologies? We find that we're not doing that well. The depression rates increase after World War II, basically around the world. So there are 2 million people kill themselves every year on this planet. The number is more than people killed during the war and people killed by all diseases or famines or any human problems. Actually, the biggest problem to human life nowadays is psychological well-being, not war, not disease, not famines, not anything that we think are horrible, dangerous. The most dangerous is our minds. So that's why I told the Chinese, you have to change your mindset. Besides making monies, besides making yourself living longer, you have to start to pay attention to the psychological well-being of our people and our students. So what should we do? So I have published papers and also books on these ACE ideas. I think the new generation talents must be someone who can have these effective athletic abilities and also have these cognitive abilities and the creativities. In the meantime, they have to develop these abilities to understand other people's minds and heart. The empathetic abilities and also their own character strengths are critically important. So this is the ACE we should develop in the next centuries. So then the question is, why well-being? Why happiness? Positive psychology has a lot of scientific evidence to suggest that in order to have these abilities to understand other people's mindset, in order to have abilities to develop your own character strengths, in order to have abilities to be creative, to be problem solvers, to also have abilities to maintain your psychological well-being, and also have these positive emotional states, you have to find happiness, well-being in your life. So the happiness and well-being are the vehicles, are the mediums for any teachings, agendas that we want to promote in the futures. So the bottom line is that happiness, well-being is the major goal of a human experience, and happiness has always been problematic since the beginning of the last centuries. And then we also find that students, the motivated students, are very likely to be happy students, and also happiness is effective ways to teach ethics and many other objects. So those are the questions of why, the 3 reasons
for your money, for your health, for your happiness. We have to promote positive psychology in Chinese classrooms. Then how do we do that? So we've been assisting the Minister of Education of China to test a new colloquiums incorporating elements of positive psychology for middle and high school students. So Chinese has been doing this, what they call ethical education, for 30-some years, but it's pretty much political propagandas and brainwashing teachings. I tell them that you really cannot do this anymore because the world is changing, the Chinese are changing, the Chinese society is changing. So you have to focus on something that is more universal, more positive, more future-oriented. So we've been developing this 18-lesson courses on pursuit of happiness. We focus on 6 modules. Number 1 is a positive self. Number 2 is maintain positive emotions. Number 3 is doing positive activities to improve well-being and happiness. Then positive relations and the meaning of life and the positive accomplishments. We've been also training teachers. We find that in order to implementing these colloquiums, teacher has to be very educated. So we've been setting up foundations and attracting donations to train teachers around every corners of China to come to Tsinghua campus to have this happy teacher trainings. So we often a week-long courses on those 6 topics. And of course, first day will always be my opening remark. And we also find the best way to incorporate the positive psychology into existing teaching colloquium is trying to combine the knowledge and information of positive psychology and the traditional Chinese philosophies, because we find that people really like it. Teachers feel easy to talk about the positive psychology. If they just tell them Martin Seligman, Teach Me High, James Kowalski, and maybe even Dr. Abadullah or Kai Ping Pong, they feel a little bit alienated because they don't know much about psychology. But if you tell them that what we have been done is precisely what the Chinese philosophers have been talking about for years, they feel easy to connect and they feel easy to talk about it. So this is why we think the synergies between psychology and the philosophy are incredibly useful to Chinese teachers and the students. Psychology focuses on objective verification, focus on the evidence. Philosophies talk about the experience. They are very helpful. Let me just give you an example to tell you how much the philosophical methods can help us to understand basic elemental psychological information and knowledge. So what you see in these pictures, it's very chaotic, very complex. You don't know very much. It's a piece of good and bad everywhere. But if you have a framework that we tell you, like this, we show you there's a bear, guys, right there. So we have this framework in your mind. Now you see this picture again. It suddenly is incredibly clear. And you are never going to forget about that. So this is the power of framework, power of mental knowledge, and the metaphysical knowledge of positivity, happiness. That's the secrets of our brains. So because of time constraints, I will skip all these philosophical discussions, and I just want to tell you what we actually do. So what we do is basically tell them about psychological informations, then tell them the links between those psychological information and the philosophical ideas. So this is 6 modules. These are 6 modules we've been teaching, and then we try to connect all those modules with philosophical parallels, and then tell them the scientific information combined with practical exercise the students can do. For instance, philosophers talk about the human relationship, Confucius talk about it, Aristotle talk about it, and psychologists also talk about it. So what we did is to show them the philosophical arguments, then have them to find the philosophers they like and the arguments they prefer, and then give them the psychological evidence supporting those arguments. And people feel immediately in love to the psychological research finding because it's very different, but it's concrete, subject, objective, and easy to understand. So this is what we do, like flow. It's a very important philosophical concept in traditional Chinese philosophies, but happen to be a very important concept of positive psychologists as well. So we show them the philosophical concept, then we tell them the psychology evidence to support the flow, and then have students to practice flow, just to remember what is the basic conditions of a flow, and have you ever experienced those flows. So that's what we've been doing. And More specifically, we teach students with different kind of activities. We always embody the psychological knowledge and the philosophical arguments with student activities. We believe activities are the keys for students to understand the positive psychology, to understand, to incorporate the information of science. So the activity number one, we always want the Chinese students and teachers do, is to display this Dishang smile to almost everybody. So what is a Dishang smile? It's a smile that has this contagious effects on other people, happened to be identified by the French physician Dishang 100 years ago. The characteristics of Dishang smile illustrated by these kids. So you have the teeth open and the mouth open, cheeks out, and you have to show the wrinkles in your eyes. Very often, people display this so-called professional smile, so-called American smile. It's not contagious. And you look at it, you don't have any strong feelings, connections to this face. Even this girl is very attractive, but you don't feel anything because this smile has no happiness associated. It's not from the heart of the individuals. So we show those differences and then we ask students to identify which faces display the Dishang smile. This is the faces, smiling faces of Professor Paul Ackerman, the most famous psychologist alive these days. They used to be my colleagues at Berkeley. So which one is a Dishang smile? Which one is a true smile? So if you have your knowledge about the Dishang smile, you can identify rightfully the B is a Dishang smile because it shows wrinkles. So how it matters to other people. So when we talk about scientific evidence, my friend Dr. Kotler at UC Berkeley conducted this longitudinal studies, find students who displayed the Dishang smile 30 years ago, and 30 years later, they stay in marriage, they are happier, they have a longer life. So Dishang smiles are important, not just because of scientific evidence, but also the Chinese philosophers talk about smiling to other people is the better ways to approach other peoples. So how to smile? Easy, just show them the techniques, have biting pencils and thinking about the humorous stories and all kinds of activities. We tell them you can do it. We also emphasize reach out. Psychologically, physically, you have to reach out. You have to touch other people. You have to shake hands, hug, play. Not ping pong. Ping pong is a good exercise. Playing contact sports, because the Chinese like to play non-contact sports. So we don't want the students to play contact sports. But here, you don't want the contact sports, so you may want to play ping pong. But ping pong is great. I don't want to de-emphasize the importance of playing ping pong. But anything that can improve people's opportunities to be in contact with other people, we find that it's very useful. And number three, we also teach students that finding character strengths. Everybody can have his own unique strengths, virtues. And the problem is that students, particularly the young kids, don't know how good are they. The young generations know how bad are they because they're so conscientious about the look, the feelings, the shortcomings, the mistakes, so they are not actually know how good are they. So by finding their own goodness, the strengths, the students can feel energetic, can feel they can do something about their life. Actually, those kind of beliefs help the students in the long run. They're incredible evidence to support those arguments. Number four, we also encourage students to develop a habit of thank other people. Chinese cultures emphasize gratitude, but not by saying, but by doing. I want to change the cultures. I want the people to say thank you openly, frequently. We find that this kind of activities improve people's health, well-being, and also improve the students' social skills. So now they're smiling to each other, they shake hands with other people, and they say thank you all the time, but they didn't do that before. And activity number six, we ask students to experience this psychological state of flow. This flow was invented and discovered by Professor Chismi-Hai. He found that those are optical psychological experiences any human being can have. Whenever you focus on something, you enjoy what you're doing, temporarily forgot where are you, who are you, and what time is it. You are very likely to get into this psychological state called the flow. And the flows can be discovered in talking to your friends and enjoying things you like to do, exercises, watching movies, and making love, and social networking, social networking, learning workings. All those events can improve, get you into this psychological state of flow. We ask students to find their own experience, and they share those experiences. They can feel this psychological strength just develop by talking about that. Activity number 8 is basically mindfulness exercise. We already know that the mindfulness exercise is becoming international business. The Time magazine actually published 2 cover stories just last year alone, talking about right now it's probably $400 million business in the United States. So mindfulness is basically enjoy what you're doing, enjoy the moment, seeing the world from your mind and the heart, not just your eyes. So that's what we have done. So let me end my remark by sharing you the mindfulness exercise we did with our students. And this is a song singing. Can we listen to the song? It's a beautiful song. The sound systems, you turn on. Okay. Well, a couple years ago, I met a blind man on Berkeley campus, and he was singing this song. I was very much attached. I asked, do you know the words of what you're saying? He said, I understand every word because I see the world with your mind and heart, not with my eyes. So let's see the world with your mind and heart. You can see the blue sky, you can see the clouds of white, you can see the brightest day and the darkest night. And you have to think about it. You have to think to yourself, what a wonderful world when you see the world with your mind and heart, not just your eyes. The cultural heritage around the world are the food for your mind and heart. The beautiful natures can also open your mind and the heart. Colorful rainbows, so pretty in the sky, and also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands. A blind man can see friends shaking hands by mind and heart. I hear baby crying. I watch them grow. They ever know much more than I ever know. And I think to myself, this is a wonderful world. What a wonderful world. This is the mindfulness. This is seeing the world with your mind and heart. All of you have a wonderful life in this wonderful world. Thank you very much for having me here. Thank you. I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have. Anybody? Yes, Warren, thank you.
Well, this positive message I appreciate very much. But I'm just sort of, my question is the positive message I appreciate very much.
Thanks.
I see a lot of benefits from
Yes.
this. But you're doing this also in the middle, as you mentioned several times, the cultural barriers and the cultural boundaries you're trying to transcend.
Yes.
And it must get pretty murky for you to try and move all this behavior and these new attitudes into a new context.
Yes.
Are you finding success?
Partially. I think you nailed these obstacles for me and for anybody who is trying to promote positive psychology in China. So number one, there are political barriers. We have to admit that the system is very authoritarian, and we're trying to talk about individual initiative, individual autonomies, and obviously there are political challenges. But as psychologists, I almost trying to always advise myself, make sure you don't push for anything. You don't chase anything. You don't want to be the vanguard of anything. You have to learn something from the surfers in California. You have to ride the wave. So what I've been doing is riding the wave in China. So there is a ground-shaking movements from the grassroots. The teachers in China, they really want to change the colloquiums of so-called moral educations. The parents, they're fed up with the current education systems. They send the kids overseas, send the kids to Dubai, because they really want to have a new kinds of revolutions and reforms in China. So there are waves pushing the administrations, pushing the Minister of Education to do something about it. So I'm coming at the right time. And with my cultural backgrounds, being educated by the Chinese systems and the US systems, being a Chinese who've been teaching in the United States at the prestigious UC Berkeley, that is a pretty good cover for me. And they let me do whatever I want to do. So I have a certain degree of freedom and have a certain space to navigate. But I have to say that I've been partially successful by the fact that I could come here to talk about that. I think that's success. And also we have this foundation set up. That's a pretty good success. We already have 40 very prestigious private middle schools in China who join me to form this network of positive education by contributing money, not just by the manpower. So that's the signs of a success. Of course, the media cover my stories and talk about my work, and all the major media outlets in China published articles, stories about the positive education, positive psychology. I also invited by the United Nations to give talk twice at the grand assemblies during the Happiest Day ceremony at the UN. The Chinese media covered my speech, viewed by 200 million people. I feel that's probably the biggest audience any psychology could ever get. Only 5 minutes fame, but it worked at least. I got my 5 minutes. So I think it was partial success. It's a long way to go, of course.
And when you hear from students in the classroom,
yes,
what do you hear?
Of course, students feel happy about that, and they like about that, at least comparing to the so-called political moral education. This is a sea change, so the students really like it. But you ask another very important question, which you didn't mention, is how parents think about that. They really like it, but they say, can this kind of education improve the test scores? That's very hard, because you necessarily happy students score very high. So at least in the Chinese system. So what I would say is that maybe not now, maybe 5 years later when they get into schools in other countries, they will do better. And maybe 20 years and 15 years later, they will do better. But right now, I don't have evidence. I mean, we have a partial evidence. Some school reported that the positive education actually improved the scores. I'm always suspicious about that because my own data never support this kind of claim. So if you want to have your students score very high, or you could do this positive education just to help them to feel good about that. But if you don't treat school exam as a goal of your education, then positive education obviously is the one you want to implement. So that's how I tell the Chinese educators. So just being honest about effects of positive education is not going to change the school yet, but it will change the kids' mentality and well-being, that's for sure. Thank you, Morgan. Any other questions? I'm sorry, I'm getting old, so I really cannot see. Oh, yes.
Yes, hello. I work in a primary school, and I'm trying to adapt this positive psychology curriculum to my students. There's a lot of evidence that shows the impact of such a curriculum on middle and high school students. Do you have any advice to share for younger children, primary children?
That's a very good question, because you can notice that we have not done much at elementary school levels. But I think those activities is going to make the students very interested, like hugging, touching, smiling, doing things for other people. I mean, all the activities we think are important vehicles to teach students the positive psychology, but maybe not the philosophical parallels, maybe not the scientific evidence of positive psychology, but the activities obviously can be useful for elementary school teachers. That's what we tell the elementary school teachers. Some principals and the teachers in China, elementary school teachers, principals, they really like these activities. And sometimes just for fun, mental relaxation, mental exercise. Besides the physical exercise, you can do mental exercise. So that's how they do it. So as I said, we have not done anything systematically, so we don't have any evidence to answer your questions. But we can work together. I mean, we can show you all the colloquiums, and then you can try, at least in divide, and perhaps we join hands can develop useful colloquiums for positive education around the world. But right now, we have done much. It's great question. Yes, anybody? Yes, ma'am.
I have more of a practical question.
Yes.
In one of your slides, you were showing us how there was a circular graphic with strengths and virtues.
Yeah.
So this may not be the forum for it. How do children exactly use that graphic to be more
Yes.
positive?
Thank you. The graphic was so-called human characters and virtues was developed by Professor Martin Selberman of University of Pennsylvania and Chris Peterson of University of Michigan. Chris used to be my graduate school advisor, one of them. And they spent years to survey what they call the virtues of the world and did this very grandiose cross-cultural studies, identified 26 virtues that are universals, regardless of where you're from. If you have these characters, virtues, then you'll be liked by other people. And what we try to do is to ask the student, first to teach them what are those virtues. Then we ask them to identify 3 most important virtues you have as individuals. So students will look at those virtues, and 26, they will identify top 3s they think they have. Then we have the class to identify what you think is top 3 virtues of your classmates, your friends, and your buddies. So each one will talk about that. So the whole class becomes very entertaining, very positive, because we all talk about the virtues. We don't talk about the problems or mistakes of other people's. So they get into this very lively discussions and very interesting fun. And I was there, I looked at the smiling face of the kids, think about, oh my God, I didn't know I have virtues of being leaders. They always think, they think about their own problems. So this is how we did. And this is one exercise we ask the kids to do. Then we tell the kids, of course, use the series of, current self and realistic self and possible self and the old self. We ask, what kind of virtues you want to have when you're grown up. So people talk about that. And we find that those kind of exercise really develop this positive self-esteem of the students. It's better than just tell them that you're great. Now you have a whole class tell you you're great on certain things. Nobody's great on everything. We're only good on certain things. So you identify those things, they feel they're good about that. And they really can improve the student self-esteem. Once again, we only do this for middle school kids. We have not done that for the elementary school kids. We don't know how they respond to those kind of exercises. Yes?
Okay. As Stephen James Wellington Primary School, like my colleagues, completely embrace and applaud the drive for positive psychology for our young children and obviously adults in the future. I suppose I've got 2 questions, a question in 2 parts. The first part is that environment obviously undoubtedly has a key impact upon a student's happiness. Where do you sit on the influence that the child's environment has, fundamentally from the media, when we see beautiful slides reminding us what a wonderful world our world is, but in actual fact, the daily bombardment to our students, whether explicit or implicit, is of, if you like, man's and the world's ugliness. And then the second part, do we cocoon our children away from it so they don't find the media, but then they've got a stark reality to come? Do we process it in a way that they try to draw strength from when there's some real ugliness in the world that they're sort of distortedly exposed to? And the second point I'll ask is, as humans, are we pre-programmed to hunt out this nastiness? Because it seems as consumers of information, if you had a good news channel, for example, it wouldn't sell airtime. A good newspaper wouldn't sell many publications, whereas it seems that we're always hunting out, in the same way as we always hunt out junk food. We know it's bad for us, but we have an issue with it. So those are my two questions.
I think it's a great question. It's a central old question between nature or nurtures. So as educators, we want to nurture the kids, but the nature is also always working just pull people back to so-called basic instinct of human animals. So what I want to answer your questions, I think, to two parts. Number one is that there is negativity dominance in the current world. The news is always about the negative information, the teachings. Even the academics, the economics, the biologists, psychologists talk about the negative natures of human beings. Economists talk about selfish genes, talk about the so-called rational human beings. For centuries, we humans, pretty much as you just said, talk about negativities of the human minds. The power of positive psychology is to change the assumptions, because there are mounting scientific evidence to support the argument that the human natures are bad. Actually, the evidence suggesting otherwise. The two books coming out, one is written by Professor Steven Pinker of Harvard University. The title of the book is that the better angel of human natures, because the new scientific evidence suggests that human natures are not bad. Even the Western philosophers talk about the badness of human nature for centuries. They're scientifically wrong. They just make these assumptions based on our own cultural traditions. So scientific evidence suggests that besides the animal instincts we all have, we humans are different from animals. We have compassion. We have mirror neurons. We have a vagus systems. They're not so different from other animals. We have this compassion. People who are good, they are nice, kind, live 10 years longer than those people who have this negative mindset. So scientific evidence are there. We have to spread out those informations. The other is Born to be Good, written by my friends Dr. Keltners, and of course Paul Brown wrote Just Babies. Talk about how babies are born with this just mindset. Even 6 months old babies can judge which is good, which is bad. Actually prefer something is good and bad. And of course, Robert Rice and many other people written something wonderfully about positive nature of human beings. So those are the books just come out in the past 2 years, even this year. So it's new information coming out. It's changing our mindsets about the human natures. So I think I've been promoting positive humanities. I think the media, the literature critics, and also the academics in general all embrace this positive psychology information, because we did find the scientific evidence to support the assumptions that we believe are true, assumptions they believe are wrong. Number two, by doing this, by spread out the scientific information, we find that there's an incredible contagious effect, what I call the ripple effects. I did 2 studies. One is called the angel experiments. We told the kids in this class, there's an angel in the class, always look after you. You don't know who the angel is, but actually there's no such angel. We just tell them there is an angel there. So students develop these habits to make positive attributions about anything that's happened to them. Before, they think the bad and the good outcomes are their own makings. Now they think, maybe there's an angel helping me. Maybe this angel, the angel is your friend. Maybe this person is helping me. By believing other people with good intentions, with helping hands, students feel better and feel good about each other. I even did with those the oil workers on the platform in the ocean. You know that the Chinese oil workers, they get assignment for 3 weeks on these stations without connections, without the phones, without
any basic human comfortable stuff. So they have to stay there for 21 days. So the short-side waves is incredibly high. But I implement this angel effect, and the results is tremendous. We help the companies know the short-side waves, improve the production rates. So the people can feel this contagious effects of goodness. And also we did another study, is to ask people randomly to help non-people on the street, random people, you don't know them. So we asked them to tell us, when do you feel this kindness return to you? It's basically inspiration is come from this Hollywood movie called The Play It Forward. So you have to help other people, 3 other people you don't know. And then this goodness will return to you, reward you in the long runs. My current results suggest that there is a 6th degree of separation, even in this kindness contagious effects. So we're trying to finish this research and publish these papers. But I think that you're right, that we suffer too much by this negativity in human knowledge information systems. And if we break this kind of old traditions, we can generate the ripple effect to spread out the positive information message to all human society, to all humankind. At least it worked in the schools I work with. Thank you. Thank you very much.